With This Gun, written by Bob V. Myers, narrated by Thomas J. Deshler. Handle her right, kid, and she's all the gun you'll ever need. These words still ring as clearly in my mind today as they did 30 years ago when I took the old, long, octagon-barreled .30-30 Marlin from my dad's hands. It hadn't been a gift. I had given him 40 hard-earned dollars for it. As a gift, that lever-action rifle would never have meant as much to me, and he knew it. Dad knew I'd handle her right because he had taught me, well, those basic rules. That a gun is no better than the man behind it. There was no fancy trick shooting. That would have wasted ammunition that we couldn't afford. Plain accuracy and make every shot count was the code I grew up by. I can't remember when I first learned to shoot and handle a rifle. It was no special thing or time. We lived with guns. They were a part of our livelihood. Dad's rifles always hung on a rack of elk antlers in easy reach. A ready rifle in our poor life on the farm could mean the difference between getting a chicken-stealing hawk or letting the hawk steal the chicken. In winter, a ready rifle might get a marauding coyote whose pelt was worth a few dollars. I loved our guns from the first day I can remember, and that's when my gun savvy started. I recall in my early years, I could never hunt with anyone. If I had a rifle, I had to go it alone, and Dad would give me only one shell. I had to bring back evidence of what I got with that shot. Now there was only certain things I was allowed to shoot. Something that we could eat or something that was a menace to our livelihood. Squirrels and rabbits were my main game, as they did destroy a lot of crops if left unchecked. Most birds were off limits, but I used to try hard to bring in a grouse, shot through the head and dressed, of course. By the time I was 6 years old, I knew where a shot must be placed in order to ensure a clean kill. Here, my father's law of only one shot and evidence of where it went proved his wisdom. When 9 years old, I bought my first rifle from Father, a .22 Stevens single shot. It had gone through the grain bender and the stock was broken, but the accuracy had not been harmed. I gave everything I owned for that rifle, my interest in our dog. It was a big price for me to pay, but I wanted that rifle. From that day on, I hunted and trapped as a way of life, and bought my own ammunition. I recall the winter when I was 9. I was hunting rabbits on a high, windy bluff overlooking the river some 2 miles from our little log cabin. I followed rabbit trails as it was easier snowshoeing where they had packed the snow. I would hunt each cluster of brush or coppice of Quakers, cautiously hoping for a shot before they bounded away. I followed one such trail out on the bluff, and as I stood overlooking the cold, ice-choked river below, I froze in my tracks at the sight of 2 coyotes appearing around the edge of a rock outcropping some 60 to 70 yards away. Slowly, I settled to a kneeling position in the snow in an attempt to conceal myself until I could get a well-calculated shot. I had been hunting for rabbit pelts worth pennies, and here stood a pelt worth dollars. Electrified with excitement, I analyzed the situation quickly, as I knew they might run any minute. Silently and smoothly, I took the .22 long from the barrel and replaced it with the .22 long rifle hollow point that I carried in my pocket. I knew the bigger cartridge would give me the added power. I was going to need to drop one of those big coyotes. Slowly, I raised the rifle to my shoulder and decided on a heart shot. Allowing for some drop, I squeezed the shot off. The big coyote jumped in the air, turned a somersault, and rolled off the bluff. I had made a direct heart shot, but it took the rest of the day to get that big coyote up the bluff and home. Now, in the years that followed, I learned well what a rifle could do and what I could do with a rifle. My first deer was taken with a .22, a clean kill between the eyes. But even though I had my own rifle, I kept yearning for a big gun, which was the big blue .30-30 Marlin that hung in our front room. As I was told repeatedly, it was too much gun for a small boy, though I was never convinced. The turning point came that summer. I nearly cut my hand off with Dad's big sharp double-bit axe while trying to split a small block of wood. My aim was poor and I dropped the axe across my hand. It took months to heal, and without the aid of a doctor, I guess my folks wondered how it was going to turn out. They promised that when my hand was well enough to properly hold a rifle, I could shoot the big gun, as the .30-30 was called. There was no doubt that promise made me use my hand and work it back to a strong, well hand again. When my hand was nearly healed, I started shooting the .30-30. Though its steel butt plate made my arm sore, no complaint was heard. price of $40 was put on the 30-30, and I hunted, trapped, and did odd jobs for neighbors with only one thought in mind: own that rifle. When 13, I gave Dad the $40 and he handed me the rifle with those words of wisdom: "Handle her right, kid, and she's all the gun you'll ever need." As I grew older, I became every bit a marksman with that rifle. I wasted very little ammunition, and more than once I proved my skill with that cherished rifle. One instance that I recall most vividly was when I was just past 14 years old and was working as a wrangler and a packer in a hunting camp. 3 hunters were in camp for the first day and were wasting a lot of ammunition, in my opinion, learning nothing. I was standing watching when one said, "Hey kid, what kind of rifle you shoot?" "A 30-30 Marlin," I replied with pride. "Ha ha ha ha," was the reaction my statement got. "What can you kill with that? Rabbits? A squirrel?" They chitted. This definitely ruffled me, and having seen what they were doing with their 30-06 and 270s, I felt they had no right to guff off at me. So when they wanted to see my rifle, I gladly brought it forth and eagerly presented the challenge of a round, sandstone rock some 300 yards out on the side of a hill. I had hit it before, and knew that by holding my sight on the top side I could easily hit it. The sandstone dust would billow up, easily identifying a hit. Each of the 3 in turn snapped off a shot that missed. Then, with more confidence than I should have had, I stepped forward and fired. A dust cloud raised and drifted slowly away. Each of the 3 then quickly found something more important than messing with a kid with an old rifle. I held my rifle proudly. I have owned other and perhaps superior rifles in my years as a hunter, trapper, and guide, but really, I found that the 30-30 is all the gun I'll ever need.